what do I mean when I say use whatever your client gives you in the session, and why this is so different from reading a script. So you might think you're already doing this by having a lot of tools under your belt, by preparing yourself before the session. So for example, if client comes and says that, I've got a lot of childhood trauma, and you're like, all right, I'm gonna use the inner child healing technique. Or when they say like, one part of me wants this and another part of me doesn't want this, or whatever, and then you're like, oh, all right, I'm gonna use parts therapy for that. This is not what I mean. So within ACH, we don't actually do any of this. And what I mean by use whatever your client gives you in the session, this is within the session itself. This is within utilizing their unconscious moments and knowing what to do with them. So if your client trances out during the session by themselves, because this is what I teach within ACH, you don't have to put them into some sort of sleep or take them under or use any induction. So if the client trances out by themselves and they remember a scene from their childhood, that's when we use that scene to help them heal. That's when we actually deal with that regression, and it's a spontaneous regression, rather than they say, I've had a lot of childhood trauma, so I'm going to use my inner child healing technique, or I'm going to regress them to childhood for them to completely remember everything and to heal from it. Or for example, when the client says, one part of me wants this and another part of me wants that, in ACH, we treat this as a clashing reality. If them two wants, two parts, are actually contradicting each other, so your client says, I want to be up and down at the same time. I want to keep eating lots of chocolate and lose weight at the same time. So this is a clashing reality. Basically, we deal with that. So this is what our client has given us in the session, during the session. And this is what I mean. So once you learn ACH, Advanced Conversational Hypnosis, you will be able to deal with whatever comes up in the session without the need of having all your tools laid out. And to be fair, if you do remember some of the tools, you can still use them, but in the way that it is not prescribing. I don't know the word, prescribing. So in a way that you are not actually telling your client what to do, but in the way that you kind of help them realize what they need to do or what they want to do or what's the best for them. So it's not you who tell them, all right then, so now you've got a lot of things that happened to you in the past. So okay, so now close your eyes, go back to that scene. What do you remember? We don't do any of that. So when the client says, we ask a question, and your client starts thinking, trances out, and they're like, the first, and this is what I have a lot with my clients, what they say to me is the first thing that pops up is I can see myself when I was 9, I was playing with my dad, and then and then he had the phone call and he had to leave straight away, and he left me with my cousin and my uncle, and I felt abandoned, whatever. That's when you deal with that, rather than, okay, so now we're going to take you back to that scene, to that moment, whatever. Because if it came to you with anxiety, right? About, for example, anxiety about their dating life or something, and then they feel like they are anxiously attached to every possible romantic partner, You don't know why it is. It's just an assumption when you think like, oh, right, so, my dad used to abandon me all the time, and this is why. You don't know that. It could be anything. It could be anything. It could be a perception. It could even be a lot of the things that they watched online, because I had a session where my client actually had so many negative beliefs because they've picked them up from all of the social media that they've been watching. So environment affects us now as well. So not everything stems from childhood, not everything stems from the past, not everything stems from, inner child, not everything needs inner child healing. Literally, we deal with whatever comes up in a session. So I hope it makes sense to you, and I hope it's clear when I say, utilize whatever your client gives you. Another very, very good example of a utilization is when your client comes to you and they're like, oh my God, I am so, I'm tense, I'm stressed, and I'm anxious about this session, right? And traditional hypnotherapy techniques will try to put them into some sort of a relaxation mode where they can relax, and then you can access their subconscious mind. But what we do in ACH, we understand that the tenseness, the nervousness, and the anxiety around the session is already a good thing, because it's already the unconscious moments. Their emotions are already starting to come out before they even said anything about their problem. So we utilize that. We put their attention on these feelings and utilize that, because this could just lead you into such a quick breakthrough from that problem that you won't even need to do too much of the interviewing or too much of the other tools, or it could lead like a 20-30 minute breakthrough, because they came to you already ready, cooking, nervous, emotions coming up. There is a reason why they're nervous. Maybe they're nervous about the problem, maybe they're embarrassed about the problem. Whatever is happening there, we utilize that. So if you want to know exactly what to do during the session and exactly how to utilize whatever your client gives you, you must come to my Advanced Conversational Hypnosis training. This is the cutting edge advanced method, and I think every serious hypnotherapist, therapist, or coach really should know it.